A happy new year to you everyone. Welcome to today's video tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up a custom domain as well as hosting for your Lovable and Supabase full stack application. For the custom domain, we are going to make use of a platform called Namecheap, and for the hosting, we're going to make use of Vercel. Vercel is not only going to help us with the hosting, but it's also going to help us set up a form of deployment pipeline whereby anytime we push any new changes to our Lovable project, it's going to get deployed to the Vercel server and it's going to be live on the URL. So that's what we're going to do today. If you are new to the channel, do not forget to click on the like as well as subscribe buttons as a form of support for this channel. And with that, let's get started with this tutorial. Now, before we get started with the first step of this tutorial, which is to set up our custom domain, one thing I would like to let you know is that the project we are going to use to set up this custom domain is from my previous tutorial, which you can find on my YouTube channel right here. In this tutorial, we created an invoice management application. You can take a look at the video if you've not watched it before. But if you already have a project you want to set up, or you want to use to follow along with this tutorial, that's fine as well. The project I'll be using to set up our custom domain and our hosting is the invoice management application, which is also right here on the Lovable dashboard. And with that out of the way, we can now proceed by setting up our custom domain. And the platform we're going to use to set up our custom domain is called Namecheap. I already have a Namecheap account. If you have your own domain platform, you can go ahead and buy your domain from that particular platform. But for me, I'll be recommending Namecheap for you to get your domain name because it's a platform I've used for a lot of time this year and they have an excellent customer service and their platform is very seamless to use. And you should also know they are not sponsoring this video. I'm only giving a review of my experience with Namecheap so far this year. Now, once you create a new account or you already have an account and you log into your account, you can always head to domains, and when you head to domains, you can see this input field where it says you should register your domain. So automatically or as expectedly, your domain should be synonymous with the app you are trying to create. For us, our app is called an invoice application. That is invoice app. That's the name of the app on the dashboard. So if you want to get a domain, it should be along that particular name as well. So you can just type in invoice app, or you might just get creative around the name of your application. And once you type in that domain, Namecheap is going to check if that domain is available to be purchased. Sometimes you might not have the extension of the domain you want available. For instance, you can see on the page the invoiceapp.com domain is not available, is already taken, so we can't get this particular domain. But if you scroll down, you are always provided with other options for other extensions. For instance, you have invoiceapp.io, which you can see is kind of expensive. You have invoiceapp.shop, you have .dev.info. You have so many domain name extensions which are available and which you might be interested in. But for me, I already purchased a domain name, so I won't be going through this process. Rather, I'll be going with the domain I already purchased, which is called freelanceinvoice.site. So I went for the .site because it's relatively cheaper compared to the other extensions I saw on Namecheap. Because this video is just an educational tutorial, so I decided to go for the cheapest option I can get, but it still works the same nonetheless. That is, you can still manage this domain and you can still set it up for hosting. So to do that, all you need to do is just to click on the manage button, and it's going to take you to the specific dashboard that handles the settings for this particular domain, which is called freelanceinvoice.site. And where you really want to deal with is the advanced DNS tab. So all you need to do is to click on that advanced DNS tab, and this is the tab where you get to register your name records. So you can see you have this add new record here. This is where you add the record provided by your hosting provider, in our case, which is Vercel. But we haven't gotten to that stage yet. But for now, we're going to stop here and then head straight to our Lovable dashboard. Before I proceed to the Vercel dashboard, you should know that your Lovable project has to be connected to GitHub, which is a Git repository for this deployment to work successfully. And you can do that by heading to the edit code section and then connecting it to GitHub. If you watch my previous tutorial, I show you how to connect your Lovable application to GitHub. Mine is already connected, and you can see this is the URL of the GitHub project, you can find the project right here on GitHub. This is the project. It's currently private, but by the end of this tutorial, I'm going to switch it back to public so that you can have access to the project. So now that our project is connected to GitHub, it means we can now host it successfully on our hosting platform called Vercel. So what I'm going to do now is to head straight to Vercel, and on Vercel, if you don't have a Vercel account, you can just do that by creating Vercel by going to vercel.com, and on vercel.com, so you can just use GitHub to authenticate your Vercel account. So with GitHub, you are able to set up your new Vercel account. But I already have a Vercel account set up a while back, so I don't need to do that again. All I need to do is just to click on the add new button, and we are provided with a drop down option of 4 options, which is, do you want to add a new project, a new domain name, a store, or you want to add a team member? For us, we want to add a new project. So I'm going to click on the project button, and it's going to direct us to the page where we have options of cloning a template or probably importing a project from a Git repository. For us, that is what we're going to do. We're going to import this freelance bundle app. If you recall, that's the name of our GitHub application. It's called Freelancer Bundle. We're going to import it because that is the project we want to host on Vercel. Configure the custom domain. So I'm going to click on import, and then the importation is going to be put into process. Now it's going to detect the type of framework being used. Remember, Lovable works with React and Vite, so by default it has already selected Vite for us. And if I click on the drop down, other platforms are available as well: Angular, Gatsby, Hugo, Exo. I mean, you can name them now, but for us, Vite was used to create this project, so we don't have any options than to select Vite. And then the root repository you can see is .4/. I'm going to extend this drop down. You can see our build command is npm run build or Vite build. Our output directly is to the dist folder, and our installation command is npm install. Now our environmental variable is not something we need to bother with because we did not set up any environmental variables while creating our project on Lovable. So all I need to do next is just to click on the deploy button, and then the deployment process is going to be initialized. So while that is taking place, you should know that by default, Vercel is going to provide us with their own random URL, which is still going to be accessible. But for us, we want to set up and configure the hosted application to connect with our freelance invoice.site URL. We don't want to use the URL provided by Vercel. As you can see, the deployment process is complete, and if I click on continue to dashboard, you're going to see the URL provided by Vercel, which is called freelancebundle.vercel.app, which is not bad anyways. And you can see the project is previewed on this side of the production deployment page. But if I click on this URL, you can see it's still working, it's live. We can access our projects using that URL, but we don't want to use the URL because it has Vercel there. It has vercel.app. We want our app to be relatable to our users, so that's why we're trying to create a custom domain. So to do that, I'm going to scroll up, and then I'm going to click on domains, which you can see right here. So when I click on domains, it's going to take me to this page where we can add a new domain. Now if I click on the drop down, other domains that I've added previously is going to show, and including the freelance-invoice.site. I already tested it on this Vercel platform before recording this tutorial. That's why it's showing among the drop down, but it's still relatively new. So I'm just going to select freelance-invoice.site instead of typing it out, and then I'm going to click on add. When I click on add, it's going to give us 3 options. Either we add it as a www.freelance-invoice.site reference and then redirect it back to freelance.site as recommended by Vercel, or we can go with the add freelance.site option, which in any case, if anyone adds www.freelance to as a prefix, it might have issues. Same thing applies to this second option. So I think we should go with the recommended option provided by Vercel. So I'm just going to click on add, and then that URL is going to be added. Now this is where the records come into play. You can see that once you click on add, Vercel provides us with 2 records. The first record is the A record, and the second record is the CNAME record. So we need to set up these 2 records in our advanced options tab in Namecheap, which you have right here, advanced DNS. So all I'm going to do is to click on add new record. I'm going to select the A record, and then I'm going to grab the host name for the name record, which is @ I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to paste it right here, and I'm going to grab the IP address as well. So you can see the IP address. I'm going to copy that, paste it in, and then click on this mark button, and it's going to get added into our Namecheap dashboard. Now we need to add the final record, which is the CNAME record. So I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to select CNAME, and I'm going to grab the CNAME name as well, which is called www. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to paste it in just like we did with the A record. And I'm going to grab the URL as well, which is the value. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it in, and then I'm going to click on the mark button as well. So this is when the propagation now has to begin. By default, once you paste this thing, the refresh button is going to get triggered automatically. Although for now, because the propagation is still in progress, it's going to show invalid configuration. But once the propagation completes, and the propagation depends on the DNS providers, so it depends on it. So if it's a platform where everything is working as it should, this shouldn't take too long. But ideally for this project, when I set it up the first time, it didn't take up to 10 minutes before it got configured. So I'm just gonna see if, as you can see, even before I finish talking, the propagation is complete, and we can now access the freelance invoice site website. So all I need to do is just grab this URL. I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to open a new tab, paste it into the browser, and then I'm going to press enter to see if our custom domain has now been set up. And as you can see, our custom domain is now set up and configured. To test if this is working properly as it should, I'm going to click on login, and I already created an account before using a specific email address. I think this email address, I already created an account, so I'm just going to type in the paste in the email address and then type in the password, and then I'm going to click on sign in. As you can see, we can now sign in into that account. We have one invoice created, no outstanding amounts. If I click on setting, you can see it's going to load out that particular invoice I created, and we can manage it by clicking on the toggle button to say the person has either paid or not. But I mean, I'm going to assume that this person has paid, and we can download this particular invoice as well. Now, show that our deployment process works properly, I'm going to make a change on the Lovable platform, and then this change will automatically get triggered to GitHub and then get deployed to our Vercel application. That serves as a form of deployment pipeline. What do I mean by this? Let's head straight to Lovable, and then I'm going to add a specific feature to our dashboard. Let me try and sign in first. I think we don't have a logout button, so I'm going to tell Lovable to add a logout button functionality to the dashboard. So I didn't spell functionality properly, so I'm going to correct that, and then I'm going to press enter. Let's see if the logout functionality is going to get added to the project, or the dashboard rather. And as you can see down below on the left bottom side of the sidebar, we have the logout button. So let's test if this logout button works. I click on it, and as you can see, we get logged out from the dashboard. I'm going to try to log in once more, and then type in the password to see if this still works properly. As you can see, it works properly. We are able to log in and log out into the dashboard. And if I head straight to our GitHub repository, and if I refresh the GitHub repository, you can see that the latest update we added, which is the logout functionality, is now reflecting on GitHub. You can see it says add logout functionality, and we literally just did it some few seconds ago. That's why it's showing the time as now. And if I also head straight to my Vercel application, and I head straight to deployment, and then check out the deployment log by clicking on this particular URL, it's going to show the deployment process by clicking on the build logs to see if the logs has been complete. I think it says deployment complete now, so the deployment has been complete, which means this should reflect on the live URL, which is www.freelance-invoice.site. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to refresh, probably just refresh, removing the dashboard extension, because I mean, we might need to log in again for this change to reflect on our application. So I'm going to click on login, and then I'm going to paste in the email, type in the password, click on login, and as you can see, the logout button is now showing on the live version of our project. So our project now has the latest change on Lovable, and we didn't need to do anything. The deployment process just happens automatically like a deployment pipeline should work. So that's it for this tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the comment section, and I'll take time out to answer every single one of your questions. So thank you very much for watching, and if you really like this tutorial, you can recommend it to your friends and your family. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one.